Welcome to our show. I'm Harry Greenberger. I'm the host of this show. And today we're going to be talking about something very special with a member of our organization who has appeared frequently on this Humanist Perspective program, but we've never told you a whole lot about Lanny Goldfinch. So let me just tell you a little bit. Lanny says he grew up in South America. His parents were Baptist missionaries, and he came to the United States to go to college at a Baptist school. And he then majored in sciences. Lanny says at the age of 21, he came to Tulane Graduate School and to study in philosophy. Sometime afterward, Lanny trained as a psychotherapist, earning board certifications. He practiced therapy for many years until his quasi-semi-retirement after Katrina. Lanny is an active member in the New Orleans Jung Society, that's J-U-N-G, not Young, the International Transactional Analysis Association, and he is, of course, a longstanding member of our organization, NOSHA, and a member of our board of directors. And Lanny wanted to talk to you folks today on the following topic: spiritual/religious stages and personal growth. Lanny, tell us about that.
Okay. In case you have to run and leave this show, I want to give you a complete summary of what I'm going to talk about in a very simplistic, simple way. It's called in psychology and a few other things a paradigm. That is, it's an illustration of something at a simple way that illustrates a bigger truth. And that is, somebody once said that there are three stages in life. The first stage is you believe in Santa Claus. After all, he brings the presents every year and all that. The second stage is you don't believe in Santa Claus. You go through a period of skepticism, and you mean the third stage is you become Santa Claus.
All right. Now, whose theory is this?
I don't know. Not a theory. It's just an illustration.
An illustration. Okay.
And it's my observation here over many years and reflecting on myself. You know, most psychotherapists really have only one client, and that is themselves. I mean, other people pay them, but primarily they're doing their work is on themselves. And when you have trouble with the client, difficulty with the client, it's because you got some trouble going on inside yourself with something that client represents. So every client that's problematic is an opportunity for personal growth. So in a way, you look forward to having problematic clients, and in a way, of course, you'd prefer not to do that. You want simple clients to work with, so there's that push-pull. But my observation over the years, and this is not something that's hard, fast, and true for everybody, but for a lot of people I've noticed, that they grow up in a certain religious background. It may be, as in my case, an evangelical Christian, a Baptist. My parents were Southern Baptists back when Southern Baptists were, before they got taken over by the fundamentalist faction of the convention. And there's some like that still around. They're called moderate Baptists. And I grew up in that. I grew up believing pretty strongly in that. I would go to prisons and testify and testify for I actually went out on street corners and handed out literature and did the preaching and that kind of thing.
So your understanding of that form of religion comes from being on the inside.
Being on the inside, being part of it. I can still go to any country Baptist church and walk in and feel right at home, just like somebody that grew up in a tribe in Africa and went off to Oxford to study can go back to that tribe and understands everything, knows what it's like, feels like it, can sing the hymns, and you just feel part of that culture. Okay. Now, you're not anymore, but it's still part of your background. Then during the college years, starting somewhere around my freshman year, and this was the period of I don't believe in Santa Claus anymore. I started having serious doubts about various things that very conservative Protestant believe. It started off with things like the literal inspiration of the Scripture, but it included things like the virgin birth. Like I took a biology class, and understand about genetics, and I go, well, how could Jesus be a virgin born if he only had one parent? Then all of his genes came from that one parent, and Jesus would have been female. And of course, that's not what this was all about, but that was the problem, the mind thought. So at that point, I started to have serious doubts about it. And left organized Southern Baptist religion, and became, and I may get back to talking about becoming or being something, a Unitarian, joined the Unitarian churches. Now, a Unitarian is somebody that believes that most is only one God. That's one of the practical definitions of Unitarians. They actually are a traditional Christian denomination, but they have evolved into something slightly different. Then, at a certain point, and this was many, many years later, I would say probably 20 or 30 years later, I began to study and read Carl Jung. Now, Jung's book called The Answer to Job had a tremendous impact on me. But it was kind of like going up in the attic of your house and finding all these things that you tossed up in the attic that you kind of just put away because you didn't have any feeling or relationship. And here was all this wonderful stuff that no longer had a direct personal meaning for me, but had some kind of meaning. So all these things that I'd thrown away started becoming backwards. One of the things, go ahead.
So somehow what you are now telling us is related to the Santa Claus paradigm.
Yes.
Could you clarify that a little bit?
Yes, sure. There's stages of development here. Psychologically, you start off believing, you go through a period of doubt, renunciation, and then you wind up understanding and becoming something different. Now, let me get back to the stage of doubt.
Okay.
What happens to a lot of people is when they develop in a standard Orthodox religion of some kind, and it can be Malaysian frog worship, it can be anything. When they start having doubts, one of three things tends to happen with people. The first thing is they just turn their backs against that religion and kind of float off into something. They just leave it. They go away from it. A lot of them come into NOSHA. We have a lot of people in NOSHA that way. They just drift away, and it doesn't mean anything for them. They don't deal with it, nothing like that. Another method, another tack that people take is they regress in a way. They get scared because they're losing their basis for understanding and the meaning of life. And so they regress and they become fundamentalists. Now, what I mean by fundamentalist is somebody that goes back out of fear mostly to defend something from attack. The attack they see as being outside themselves, but it really is an internal doubt that's attacking them.
In the third stage after they've gone through.
This is in the second stage.
Where they're questioning.
Where they have the questioning, where they have the doubts and so forth. And at that point you get the skeptics, and I'm just using this word in a broad sense, the non-believers and the ultra-believers. They're kind of just mirror images of each other. They're heads and tails of each other. And so when the fundamentalist talks about God, 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 and then the atheist talks about God, 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 but they don't believe in God, they're talking about the same God. They have the same concept, they just have a different attitude towards that concept. Do you follow what I'm saying?
And the God, when you say God, which I presume is the God with a capital G.
Could be.
Who was the creator of the universe.
Could be, if that's the God, yes.
And also with whom you can have a personal relationship.
Could be. That was the one that I had, but I mean, there are lots of other gods.
So you're saying that there are people who will support unto death the proposition,
your death if necessary,
the proposition that such a God is real and exists.
Is that right?
And then
right.
on the opposite are those who will say unquestionably there is no such thing.
There is no such God.
All right.